National Safety Month, and what happens when something unsafe happens on the job and you get hurt. And joining me now, personal injury attorney Jonathan Lieberman, to talk us through some of the options. Appreciate you joining us this morning, and a lot to get through in a short amount of time. Accidents happen.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Of course, accidents happen. People get hurt. In the broad sense of things, let's start with, what do you do if that happens? What do you recommend for an employee if they get hurt at work?
Well, the first thing is to look into filing a workers' compensation claim. That is generally when you're injured on the job. That is a claim that has a lot of benefits for people. However, Steve, there are a lot of other avenues sometimes for recovery, such as third-party claims.
So if it happens, the documentation process, the order of doing things, who you call first, who you talk to first, what's the proper steps to take?
So when you're injured on the job, the first thing you want to do is report it to your supervisor or any boss that's on the site. You want to make sure that your company is aware of what has happened, so that they can file what's called a first report of injury. You also want to look into seeing who caused that accident. Was it your employer? Was it someone from your employer? Or was it a different employee of a different company?
And this is not just, we think about workplace accidents, we think about going to the job and something happening there. It could be a job site. It could be a remote site, right? It could be any area where you're performing work for your employer.
Absolutely. Many work accidents happen away from the actual job facility or the company headquarters, to say, where you have workers on site. Think of it a construction site where there could be 10 different companies working alongside a general contractor with different employees.
And this is where it gets a little sticky, and it helps to have a personal injury attorney helping you through the process. But if it's a scenario like you just mentioned, where maybe there's multiple contractors who are part of the equation here, how do you determine, I guess, who is at fault here? Or if you're helping someone out, do you just go after everybody?
Well, and that's another reason to contact an attorney. Investigation is crucial, especially right after the injury or the accident has occurred. There's a lot of different organizations through the state and federal governments, such as OSHA and others, that come in and investigate and figure out what was the cause of a workplace accident. And so the investigation is crucial, because that's going to show who, or there could be multiple causes of fault.
Sure.
And if it was a company different from yours, again, there may very well be a third-party claim.
Jonathan, one other thing that I wanted to touch on that I think a lot of people might not be aware of is that you actually could have some basis if you're injured on your way to work, if you're driving perhaps and get in an accident. Does that only apply if you're driving, like you said, maybe a construction job, to a remote work site? Or if you have an office job and you're driving to the office, would you still potentially have a claim?
So I think what you're touching on, Steve, is called, in the law, there's called the going and coming to from rule. Generally, when you're going to or in the morning or coming home at night from work, if you're in your own vehicle and you've already clocked out, generally that would be a third-party claim, meaning that if you were in a car crash and somebody else was at fault. Concerning workers' compensation would come into play if you're driving an employee's vehicle, so to say, or if you've already reached their facility, for example, and are in their parking lot walking into work. That very well could be also a workers' compensation claim.
So many different layers to get through. I do encourage anybody who's watching, maybe if you've had an injury recently or you're just curious, to do your research. If you want, reach out to a personal injury attorney like Jonathan and get more information there. Jonathan Lieberman joining us this morning. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your help and insight.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, have a great day.